This is the paradiddle rudiment. A paradiddle, as you probably know if you've been playing drums for any length of time, is a combination of two single strokes and a double. We call the single strokes para, we call the double diddle. So it could be para-double, but diddle is easier to say, paradiddle, paradiddle. Now, at the very base level, you really should be able to play the paradiddle sticking. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. All right, that's a paradiddle, but I consider that to be a paradiddle sticking, not the paradiddle rudiment. All right, so let me tell you why. As I play the sticking, everything is the same type of stroke. I have rebound strokes, I have singles and doubles. And that's important to work on because as you're playing drum set, you're playing around the keyboard, timpani, any percussion instrument, tenors, all of that stuff requires you to be able to move around playing singles and doubles to have an even, clean sound. When we play it as a rudiment, the single paradiddle becomes an accented rudiment. It's our first accent. So we're really thinking of a loud stroke and 3 soft stroke. Now, the paradiddle, if you heard me playing really fast here, is our first accented rudiment and our first 2 height rudiment. So 2 heights meaning there's 1 height for a loud stroke where we start high and we end low, and then another height for our tap and up strokes. All right, so let me go through there and break it down for you. This is for any percussionist or any drummer who doesn't know the 3 fundamental stroke types. All right, so the very first stroke type that we learn when you learn the single stroke roll is a rebound stroke, where you start high and you end high. The first stroke of the paradiddle is when you start high and you end low. We call this a downstroke, where I'm hitting the drum and I'm using the back fingers to push the stick into the palm of my hand to be able to stop the stick from rebounding. Right? It's a very important concept because when we stop the stick from rebounding, that allows us to play soft without the stick jumping back up and trying to play soft from up here. So if I try to play accented paradiddles and I don't have my downstroke properly learned, it's going to be all over the place, not a 2 height rudiment. So to learn the downstroke, this first thing that you're going to do, if you haven't done this yet, learn this first. The downstroke, starting high, ending low. I recommend that you do this off of the drum. Okay? You can do this in the air. So all I'm doing is starting up here and I'm whipping the stick down to here. When it hits the bottom of the arc, at the minimum part of the arc, I'm snapping my fingers into the palm of the hand. Now notice that I'm not trying to hit or use a lot of force and velocity behind that, what we are eventually going to call an accented stroke. All I'm doing is pushing the stick down and I feel it hit the palm of my hand and I just cushion that stick with my back fingers. So practice that for a while, all right, in the air. You don't have to do it on the drum, okay? In fact, I really kind of recommend that you don't do it on the drum, all right? You see how my fingers are just moving the stick into the palm of my hand on every single one of those, and it stops that stick at the low point. Once you get that down, you can also do it where you're doing it in the palm of your hand, okay? So I want to be able to feel that snap at the bottom of the stroke, but I don't want to hit my hand. So I'm having to control the bottom part of the arc. It comes down. Oh, if I keep going, I'm going to hit myself. I'm going to hurt my hand. But when I get really good at knowing where the bottom part of that stroke is, all I'm doing is hearing this and it's stopping right above the palm of the hand. All right, so work that and then put it on a drum. Now, the thing about a drum or a practice pad with a lot of rebound is that stick wants to jump back up because the motion, it's almost like throwing a tennis ball against a wall. It wants to bounce back, all right? Or a basketball on the floor. It wants to bounce back up. We just have to use those back fingers to stop the stick, all right? Now, that's the first stroke of the paradiddle, the downstroke. When I play a paradiddle, I have a right hand followed by a left hand. The left hand is going to be close to the drum, and it's going to be an upstroke. So an upstroke is when I start low and then I end high. Okay, I can't just lift the stick up, I actually have to play it. So I like to think of this as a quick down up, or like a check mark. Hear how I'm going down up? So it's really one motion of the hand, but really what I'm doing is I'm hitting the pad on my way up. It's kind of hard to do if you haven't done this before. It'll take a little bit of time to really kind of get used to that motion of the upstroke. Now, there's two ways of doing this. What you're seeing me do is I'm almost doing the wash on, wash off thing from Karate Kid. So I'm letting my hand go down as I'm lifting my wrist, and this is a stroke in drumming we call the molar stroke. So basically, I am bringing the stick up in the most relaxed way possible. So you can do this without a stick in your hand, just learning how to do. Okay, so as I'm moving up, the hand moves down and up. So you can just practice that a bunch of times without the stick in your hand. Think of your check mark. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. All right, really important to get used to doing that. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up with both hands. All right, so we have two strokes of the paradiddle. All right, so we have a downstroke on the right hand, an upstroke on the left hand. Guess what the upstroke prepares the hand to do? It prepares us to play another downstroke. So I can isolate just the first two strokes or the para of the accented paradiddle, playing down, up, and then I can leave out the diddle for a second, and then do the same thing on the opposite hand. Down, up, 3, 4. Down, up, 3, 4. Down, up, 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. Down, up, 3, 4. Down, up. Now it's always opposite. Right, left, right. Right, left, right. All right, so work on your downstroke on both hands to where you can get really used to that. Train your muscles, get those pathways develop in your brain. Train your muscles to stop that stick without using a lot of force, without using a squeeze of the hand, without using tension, okay? Just cushion that stick into the back fingers on each hand. Not too hard, okay? And you certainly notice that I'm not all tensed up and I'm not trying to hit the drum harder. And then practice your upstroke. That looks awkward. I would recommend doing that on one hand first without the stick. All right, and then put those first two strokes together. Down, up, 3, 4. Down, up, 3, 4. Down, up, 3, 4. Down, up. Now, the diddle, the other two strokes of the paradiddle, the diddle is when we're playing soft notes that are right down here that start low and end low. So we call these taps. So a downstroke is when it starts high, ends low. An upstroke is when it starts low and ends high, and a tap is when it's just 2 low strokes. Or you can call it soft strokes, but they need to be made with the wrist. As I'm playing this, I don't want to use arm on my diddle or my tap strokes. I want to use a very relaxed double wrist motion. So not like the double stroke motion of my double stroke roll, which we're trying to get a good amount of velocity and force into the head to make a good solid double, but a softer one. Now I can put the 4 strokes of my paradiddle together. Woo! But I've got to remember that these are 3 stroke types. Down, up, tap, tap. All right, so try just your right hand paradiddle, down, up, tap, tap. 1, 2, ready, go. Down, up, tap, tap. If you're playing the upstroke correctly, it should sound the same as your tap strokes. So loud, soft, soft, soft. Even though the upstroke is coming up, it should sound the same as your taps. So we need a good sound on that. Practice your right hand first. Down, up, tap, tap. Get yourself readjusted. Play it off of the left hand. Down, up, tap, tap. Off of the right hand. Down, up, tap, tap. Down, up, tap, tap. That is the paradiddle as an accented rudiment. Then we put it together without a space in between. Down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap. Now I am going really, really slow. If you've been playing these for a while, you've probably already fast forwarded. But what you need to do is really perfect it at a slow tempo. Get the stroke styles mastered. Those 3 stroke styles become almost everything that we're going to do with our flams and our accented rolls and our drags and all the other rudiments require that stroke style of down, up, tap, tap. So really work it out. Go really slow. Down, up, tap, tap. Down, up, tap, tap. Down, up, tap, tap. Down, up, tap, tap. That's even slower, I'm sure, than the bronze level. So you need to do all of these things before you even attempt the first level of bronze. All right? If you have that perfectly, if you can do that in your sleep or without even thinking about it, here's a way that you always know whether you can actually have something mastered is whether you can play something and have a conversation or read a book or watch TV and not have to think about it. Because at a certain point, my neurons are firing in that pathway that I developed by walking that path over and 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 over until I can start playing faster and faster. But you have to get the pathway developed in your brain. It'd be nice if all these pathways exist, but they don't. And that happens in any motor skill that you're going to develop. You play tennis, you play golf, you play basketball, you shoot free throws, you play football. Every one of those motor skills have to be taught to your muscles, and your brain has to develop that pathway to where you know how to throw a ball. Right? If I gave you a ball and you started throwing with your left hand, it'd probably look like a 2-year-old trying to throw with your left hand a ball. But if you developed it and you developed the motion, after a while you would be able to throw a ball with your left hand if you work on it long enough as well as your right. All right, so practicing that, the upstroke becomes the motion, the flow of the accented stroke. So as you develop a little bit of speed, you're going to start feeling the hands just moving between the accents. Assuming I don't hit my sticks together. See how I'm just going up, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap. And my hands are just naturally flowing. Now, I am using a lot of arm because I'm using the molar stroke on those accent strokes. So the accent, the dynamic of the accented stroke, the forte or the loud accented stroke, is happening from the weight of my arm. It's happening with the velocity of the stroke, not because I'm trying to hit the drum really hard. So you're not going to see me play paradiddles all downstroke. Right? I want to make sure that I feel that motion going back and forth in the hands. So hopefully by the time you get to a point where you can play accented paradiddles with a metronome or a groove track or your favorite tunes from the radio, from your playlist, excuse me for being old, as soon as you can play that along with some groove or with some tracks, then you're ready to go to playing along with me at that bronze level. That was a lot of stuff. But guess what? If you don't do that, then you're never going to be able to play paradiddles at a fast tempo. And you're going to have to develop that two-height control over your paradiddles. Otherwise, every other rudiment that you learn is going to be difficult and you're going to be starting from scratch every single time. So take the time. Stop here. Don't go to any other rudiment. Single strokes, double strokes, multiple bounce, paradiddle. Those are really the most essential rudiments as far as I'm concerned. Some people say singles, doubles, triples, but I think this is really, really important to develop. All right, let me give you a couple of tips for intermediate level. Once you get to a certain point, again, we're still using our arms. We're still going to use that relaxed motion, all right? But I'm going to lower my sticks. I'm going to lower the velocity and the force of my accent strokes. Now, I can adjust my accent and I can adjust my force to be able to play the dynamic levels of my accent strokes however I want to. I don't have to play loud accents. I can play softer accents. And I can play louder taps and upstrokes. As you get to be really good in the intermediate stage, you want to work on that and you want to kind of develop that relaxation of your accented and unaccented strokes. Because as you're playing drum set, you do not want to play paradiddles. Okay, it's great to be able to control that and be able to do that, but on drum set and a lot of other instruments, as you're moving around the instrument with those accented strokes, you want to be able to control the velocity and force of your accent. So as you move faster, start relaxing the velocity and force of your accent, lower the height. Try to relax those inner beats, the notes in between the accents, the taps and upstrokes, a little bit higher to where there's less difference between accent and tap. So that's something to work on that's going to help propel you to the faster tempos. If you can't do that, you'll never be able to play really, really fast paradiddles. All right? Maybe you can. I can kind of eke those out, but I'm using a lot of tension and it doesn't feel great. So you really want to try to relax. All right, to where you can kind of squeeze a little bit, use a little bit of whip motion for that accent, but then you're playing just nice and relaxed paradiddles. So again, the biggest thing to do is to start really, really slow. Work on those fundamental strokes on each hand separately first. build the foundation of your paradiddle with the stroke types. You can do this with your sticks in the air or hands in the air. Down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap. You can be in the back of the band hall. You could be watching TV. You could be doing anything. This is forging those pathways in my brain that's creating those motor skills in my hands. All right, so spend a little bit of time. Google that whole motor skill development thing. It's really fascinating how those pathways are created and how that goes into becoming a natural drummer.